Hi, I'm Joe, and I was just wondering, I wonder what the Hunger Games would be like if it was more of an analogy for fitting in at high school. Hmm. Well, anyway, here's what the average consumer thinks about Divergent.
Your results were inconclusive.
That's impossible.
It's not impossible, it's just extremely rare. You're able to control and conquer your fears. They call it Divergent. You don't fit into a category. They can't control you. You can't trust anyone. You have to hide inside a faction to survive.
In a post-war future where society is divided into 5 groups, a young woman named Trish finds out that she was never meant to fit into any one of those groups, which is a cause for execution. She must hide this fact that she's a divergent in order to survive the initiation process into the army-like branch that she chose to join. And that's just the beginning of this movie. This movie is really long. It's like they spent an hour and 10 minutes, which is the length of a normal movie, on one thing and setting up this fantasy world, which I liked, by the way. I'll come back to that. Then they spent an hour and 10 minutes on the plot. Okay, you have two. This is literally 2 movies in one. One movie they set everything up, another movie they deal with the plot. And I mean, seriously, 2 hours and 10 minutes. Every single frame of that movie is called for. You can't remove any part of that movie and have it not make sense. I mean, you had 2 movies. I mean, if you want to tell both those stories, trim some of them down. Okay, that's the thing I did not like about it, is that it was too long. But like I said, I did like the fantasy world about this. It reminded me of the Hunger Games, only it was more realistic in the sense that it had more rules. I mean, it had more realistic rules. It was a little bit like, I guess, George Orwell's 1984, in the sense that there was 5 groups, and every group is basically like a different branch of government, or just different branches of society. There's like farmers, there's army, there's government, and so forth. And I really liked that part of it. But here's the ironic thing is, because I liked that, there's another thing I didn't like, which is this movie kept breaking its own rules. There's a whole thing in there where Trish must have enough points in order to survive the initiation process. And trust me, this is a long movie, so I don't think I'm giving anything away when I say she doesn't have enough points. But they ignore that and remove all the tension. So we spent 20 minutes of this really long movie and it didn't matter. So you couldn't cut that part of it. Just show her getting better. Just show her, that's it. That's all you gotta do. You don't need to do the whole thing with the point system. There's a couple other things that were like that. Also, the acting, I couldn't tell if the characters were boring or if the acting was bad, because it was totally lopsided like that, where sometimes the acting was great and I started to get into the characters, but other times they just felt like they were just saying lines, waiting for the other person to finish to say their line. And it was almost like the acting got better as the movie went on. And there was a lot, and this is another thing, of characters saying stuff as another character's looking up. I mean, if they do this all the time in sports commercials where they have narration and someone's looking up. It just felt kind of, they did it too much. It was a trick they did too many times. However, I'm giving this movie an N, because I can understand how some people might like this movie and understand how some people might not like this movie. I'm totally in the middle. It was a little too long. I could understand what they were going for with this whole thing about overthrowing a government, and so I'm just giving it an N. And that's what the average consumer thinks of Divergent.